and we'll carry that for you. But in the meantime, we bring back Dr. Kevin Dyson. You can find him as the principal at Centennial High School. Of course, hear him on Titans Talk Back during the Titans season, post-game here on 104.5 The Zone. And KD, it's great to talk to you, man. Haven't heard from you in quite some time.
Been hiatus, man. Haven't talked Titan football since since January.
It feels like a lot has happened since January, that's for sure. A lot to catch up on here, KD. I mean, let's just start with the schedule, for example. We plan on hearing you after every one of these games. So have you gotten a chance to sit down since the Titans schedule came out a couple weeks ago and really parse through it? And what has stuck out to you the most?
You know, I think it's like anything else in the NFL. You got to look at the moves and off-season draft picks, because I think a lot of times we get enamored with what happened years previous and assume it's going to be, this game's going to be tough, that game's going to be easy. But you got to look at the moves, matchups, all those type of things. I think I like the home schedule, obviously. I think you got some good home cooking games that we can have opportunity to win. But at the end of the day, this is a whole new Titans team. And what I mean by that is a new coaching staff, new personnel. It don't matter who's on that schedule. We still don't know what the product is until they get on the field to even make, in my opinion, a true assessment of what they are going to do as far as the 24 schedule looks like.
Well, that's a good point, KD, because you look at a few of these games, and the thing that sticks out is, okay, rookie quarterback, right? When you play Caleb Williams and you play the Patriots with Drake May and the Vikings potentially with J.J. McCarthy, Washington with Jaden Daniels. But apart from all of those teams that are going to have a new QB in place, I think you're right in that we look at the Dolphins game, Monday Night Football at Hard Rock Stadium, and just think that's going to be the same teams going against each other on Monday Night Football like it was last season, where both of those teams could look incredibly different from that point to the September 30th Monday Night Football game, especially the Titans, who are a completely different football team. And I wonder what the conversation is on the other side of the schedule for teams that see the Titans on their schedule. And I wonder if it even registers all the moves the Titans have made this season in bringing in Calvin Ridley and the coaching change, or if they look at that and say, we're playing the 6-11 Titans from 2023.
Exactly. I mean, and people are going to make assumptions about the teams like the Bears, right? No, that should be a win for the Titans. Now, granted, they made some changes, go back with a rookie quarterback, and I'm referencing the Bears. We just don't know how that's going to translate. You know, we saw what Houston did with a rookie quarterback and how that worked out for them last year. He was very highly successful. So, you know, it's just you never know how the schedule's going to pan out. And I look at games like the Bills, of course, in your rival games with the Colts. And I think the intriguing part about Jacksonville is the Ridley move. And so there's a few games in there. Lions, there's another team. You forget they're on the schedule. Of course, the Packers, another playoff team from the year before. So you can look at their schedule and say, oh, man, that's a rough schedule. But I think with the offseason moves, new coaching staff, it's hard to predict, if you will, how successful or unsuccessful the Titans will be. I think, like most, there's an excitement with this team. I think with a new head coach, the Rand kind of taking the reins, and he's made some moves, whether it be via the draft, free agency, that has a lot of people excited about the potential for the year, but you still got to put the product on the field, right? So I'm excited about the potential of this team and some of the moves they had and some of the key pieces that they were able to keep together, some of the core guys, to see how they put this thing together and get ready for the season.
Dr. Kevin Dyson with us on 104.5 The Zone. So before we talk about some of those moves, KD, especially at the position that you played at wide receiver, I do want to get your perspective on this report from yesterday that we've talked about but have not gotten a former player perspective on, and that is that the NFL Players Association is working to finalize a proposal to overhaul the offseason starting as soon as next year, which would mean eliminating voluntary on-field work in the spring in favor of a longer training camp ramp-up with players reporting in mid-June to early July. So in so many words, taking OTAs and pushing them into the middle of the summer and essentially having an elongated training camp period. So players report, and then they're there, and the season essentially starts from there, and they're off in the month of April and May as opposed to June and July. As a former player, how do you think you would have received this report and this proposal?
again, I guess at this point in the game, I'm old. I'm an old school guy. My thing is training, like most things, is progressive. And so you want to be at your optimum by the time you get to training camp, and then you work on some things in training camp, condition your body for the long season ahead. I think if you talk about players' health, I think that's part of this conversation. But we have seen an increase in injuries with the elimination of some of the contact and some of the practice length and time that the players can have. I think you've seen somewhat of an increase in the muscle tissue type injuries and things of that nature, right? I personally, since you're asking me, I like the progressive off season where I had like an OTA mini camp, a competitive mini camp, had a break, because that season's long. So once you get into that season, there's, you got a bye week, but you really don't have no downtime, especially if you got injuries and things of that nature. So that summertime is your me time. So if you eliminate that or push it back, I can see some benefits to that as far as being able to have some time for a 2-month stint. But at the same time, it's a long haul season, and essentially you're making it longer by pushing it back a month and some change for the players. So my preference would be, somewhere probably in the middle where you have some involuntary and maybe in some mandatory competitive sessions that kind of get your feet wet, because most of those evaluations and those OTAs are for some of the younger guys, maybe the bottom end of your roster, the guys that just got drafted. You want to see what you got and see how they handle the playbook, the terminology, the pressure, all the different things. I think that is an important evaluation process not just from a player standpoint, but also from a management standpoint. So, but again, I say that I think I started this whole statement by saying I'm old, so I tend to think on that side of it, and I would want to keep the progressive conditioning, if you will, of my body to get ready for the season.
Well, and as you got deeper into your career, how did you find yourself handling OTAs in terms of what you were able to accomplish or what your goal was going in? Like, for example, how do you think DeAndre Hopkins would be approaching OTAs, having done it time and time and time again, along with Calvin Ridley and Tyler Boyd, as opposed to a Treylon Burks who comes in with going into his third season and obviously a lot on his shoulders in terms of living up to that first-round billing? How did you handle that as a rookie versus as a vet?
Man, it doesn't matter whether you're a rookie or a vet. When you put on that field and you put that film in the eye in the sky is what we called it, you're putting a product on the field. So you always want to be competitive and give your best. And it's about getting better, right? And it's again, like I said, it's progressive as far as where you want to be when you get to the season. And so you're working out some things. You might be working on a release. You want to see how explosive you go, or you've gotten, or you've worked on these routes or what have you. Your timing with the quarterback, all the different things that you get to work on in these times. And you may, as a veteran, if you will, you might not get the quantity of reps that, say, a Treylon Burks is in this stage of his career, or Phillips, or some of the younger guys. They're going to get the bulk of the reps, but you're going to make sure the reps you do get are quality, and you're going to try to be competitive. You're going to try to make plays, tough catches, get the feel for traffic, being in zones, having contact, guys wrapped around you, making tough catches. You want to, as far as receivers, you want to get conditional for that kind of stuff. People don't realize that so much of what football is rhythmic, and having a rhythm, especially from a receiver standpoint, being able to, and a quarterback, be on the fine pockets in the zone, being able to feel that tight coverage and know how to position my body to make a tight catch, things of that nature that you condition yourself. There's muscle memory that's involved, but in part, a lot of that is part of that off-season training. And so for me, even as a veteran, I didn't want to take, 400 reps in a OTA, but I did want to get some quality reps and compete.
Dr. Kevin Dyson, our guest on 104.5 The Zone. And I especially think back to that transition year, KD, from 1999 to 2000, when Jeff Fisher obviously is the head coach, but you guys are making that transition from Les Steckel to Mike Heimerdinger. And obviously it's changes from top to bottom with the Titans organization, at least with the coaching staff, but still a new offense being implemented, and Will Levis carries over with that systemic change. So how much can be accomplished at this time of year just between quarterbacks and receivers to establish that what you're talking about, but in a completely new offense with new terminology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that remains to be seen as far as the nuances and the adjustments he makes offensively. Like when Heimerdinger came in for Steckel, he adjusted to us. You know, we had just come off a Super Bowl run. He had some stuff that I felt was beneficial, enhanced some of the things we did. He put more onus on route running ability and us making catches. His words exactly were, "You get paid to make plays too," and he's exactly what he said. So that was his excitement from that standpoint. So that OTA was super competitive for receivers. We wanted to prove a point as well. And so, yeah, I think there is a level of you want to show the new coach your ability. You want to show that you are worthy of whatever distinction that you have. You want the ball. You want the rock. He also got to see what he has. And he's coming in. I don't know if he's completely, like I said, with Heimerdinger, he came in and he kind of adjusted to us. He kept very much of the terminology the same, familiarity, because he had a veteran team, and he adjusted to us. And that was kind of he was a savant in that, in the sense that he easily picked up stuff very quickly, and he adjusted, and we just changed a couple aspects of some of the routes we did. He added a couple things here and there, some side adjustments he took side adjustments away and put the onus back on the quarterback. So he brought some things from his Shanahan tree that seemed to enhance what we did specifically in a passing game, and it seemed to work. Now, I don't know if Callahan is doing the same thing, or if he's completely just scrapped everything and said, "This is our playbook. Here's the terminology. Learn it." Which NFL, more often than not, the difference is the philosophy of the play caller and the terminology of the play caller. Everything else is football. You're going to run a slant and a flat. You're going to run a curl and a flat. You're going to run a post and a dig. You're going to run 2 comebacks. You're going to run 4 verticals. You're going to do all the things. Everybody's doing it. Now you have some little nuances in between all that. If that's a matter of game planning. But more often than not, offenses are very similar in the National Football League. There's little nuances that coaches bring from their skill, from their background. But ultimately, it becomes the terminology and how fast the guys can pick up your terminology. And then a philosophy. Are we a vertical team first? Are we a mid-range team first? Are we a quick game that builds on the vertical game? Are we a run-first type team? Are we a spread-out team? Are we running 3 wide receiver sets 75% of the time, or only 35% of the time? So it's just a matter of the philosophy of that play calling.
And I don't know that anybody will be more familiar with that philosophy and terminology than Tyler Boyd when it comes to Brian Callahan's offense, coming over to join this wide receiver room. KD, when you saw this news of the acquisition of Tyler Boyd, did it change anything about how you believe the Titans will utilize Calvin Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins?
Not necessarily. I think Boyd, one thing you can say about him and his stint at Cincinnati was he was a good complimentary receiver, very quality route runner. He played his role. He made big plays in big moments when his number was called, because of the attention that was placed on the other 2 big receivers they had. And I kind of see him saying that well. It's, head coaches, coordinators, they have guys that they trust, that they kind of bring them where they go. I can think of guys that have done that even from my era, where they seem to follow that coach around because there's a trust level. And I think that's similar with Callahan with Boyd. There's a level of trust, a guy he can put in that locker room for whatever terminology, whatever nuances he wants to bring to the Titans organization as a play caller, where this man Boyd can now come in and say, "This is what coach is talking about. Here's how we used to do it. Here's how we adjust. Here's the break off of this route. Here's the combination. Here's the communication. Here's the adjustment. Here's the side adjustment. Here's the play check. Here's all the different things that, because he's been in the system for a number of years, where he could be kind of that coach, if you will, in that meeting room to help the receivers coach get everybody on the same page. And I think it's exciting for a guy like Boyd, fresh start, if you will, coming to a system he's very familiar with. He's had a big impact as that number 3 guy in the National Football League, and now he can go ahead and make a name for himself and potentially get him a bigger contract as well.
And then naturally, Dyson, we just look at what that means for Treylon Burks. And we've talked about this, you and I, on Titans Talk Back. Maybe a similar parallel in that you made a big jump after an injury-riddled year 3 of your career, and you made a big jump in year 4, the most productive year of your NFL career with the Titans. So here's Treylon Burks. Obviously, injuries have plagued him, and he's going into year 3, not year 4, but similar pressures, right, of being a first-round draft pick at the wide receiver position. So in a strange way, do you feel like this situation and what's in front of him almost takes the pressure off in a way going into 2024 with Ridley and Hopkins and Boyd all in the mix and not as much weight on his shoulders? Just could you kind of contextualize what the offseason is like for Treylon Burks having been in similar shoes?
Actually, I think it's a little bit more pressure. Obviously, he's a former first-round pick. Eyes are on him. The assumption is you got Hopkins and Ridley going to be a starter and Boyd's going to be your 3, right? You assume based on the money spent and guys being brought in. So to me, the eyes are on him from a different standpoint. So I actually think there's a little bit more pressure in that he has to build a name, right? Because he doesn't know his fate, right? Because we all do it. Every player will tell you they do it. You locker room you locker count. You try to see, well, if we only keep 6 receivers, I make this much money. He's a free agent. All those different things, all the doubts are coming to his mindset. And so I would argue that he's feeling more pressure in the sense that he doesn't know where he stands with the organization based on the moves they have made here in the last several months. And so with that being said, I think he's going to go in this offseason. And I would assume he has to go in this offseason like I'm auditioning, whether it be for the Titans or the other 31 teams in the National Football League. This is an audition. So he has to get his mind right and prepared and perform at a level where he has value, whether it be I get released and I need to get a job, I get traded, or if the Titans have plans for me to be in that rotation. So he's got a lot on his plate, on his mind, I am sure. I'm sure him and his agent have had conversations, whether it be with Red or with other organizations. I know between each other they've had these conversations. And so it remains to be seen. I think we'll see how he handles it going into the first preseason game. I'm assuming he's probably going to be with that second group. Again, I'm just making that assumption based on the moves and what I'm hearing coming out of the OTAs and things of that nature, that he's going to be with that second group of receivers. And so he's got to basically go out there and perform and show his value not only to the Titans organization, but anybody that's watching film.
Kevin Dyson, our guest on 104.5 The Zone. I know you're working, KD, but school's out, right? Like, when does Kevin Dyson get to be in summer mode to take that mid-year break before things crank up, both in school and in football?
Unfortunately, principals, we pretty much here all the time, man. And, I'm on my lunch break right now, so I was fortunate to get the call. But, schools don't slow down. People move and they register, they show up. You got to prepare for the next year. So it's an interesting dynamic. But, of course, I take my time when I can and try to get some golf trips here and there. And that kind of helps you recharge. Just like anything else, like we're talking about OTAs, man, you got to have some kind of break so you can recharge and build that excitement back for the next year. It's not different as being a competitor and being competitive in what you do. It's the same thing. You get to the end of a season and you're tired and you need a break, and then you use off season to recharge and get better. So that same approach I've been taking for the last 20-something years of my life.
No matter the field you're in, KD, appreciate you spending your lunch break with us. As always, look forward to catching up soon.
Absolutely, man. Take care. I'll see you soon.
Yes, sir. Dr. Kevin Dyson with us on 104.5 The Zone, at KTDyson87 on Twitter. Looking forward to having him back on Titans Talk Back for the upcoming season post-game here on The Zone. Head coach Brian Callahan getting ready to meet with the media out at Titans OTAs. We will carry that presser for you live coming up next.